1. Reasons for the conquest of Istanbul. Strategic reasons. Geographical location. Istanbul is at a crossroads between Europe and Asia. The Ottoman Empire aimed to establish a balance between Anatolia and Rumelia and eliminate Istanbul by coming together, for 2 points. This situation is also of great importance in terms of the territorial integrity of the empire. Control of trade routes. The straits where Istanbul is located create important trade plans between the Black Sea and the Mediterranean. The Ottomans planned to increase their economic power and direct commercial activity in the region by controlling these trade routes. The dominance of the straits would play a role not only in regional, but also in global trade. Economic reasons. Commercial. Wealth. Istanbul has been an important trade center for centuries as the intersection of both Eastern and Western cultures. This rich trade volume also put economic pressure on the Byzantine Empire. The Ottomans aimed to both increase their own economic prosperity and shift the regional power stability by capturing this commercial potential. Tax and revenue sources. The Byzantine Empire constituted a significant economic obstacle for the Ottoman Empire with the income and tax burden obtained from trade passing through Istanbul. With the conquest of Istanbul, the Ottoman Empire would have the opportunity to directly control the tax and trade revenues in the region, thus strengthening the state budget. Religious reasons. Ideological goal in the Muslim world. The statement, in the hadiths of the Prophet Muhammad, "Constantinople will certainly be conquered," was adopted as a major ideological and spiritual goal among Muslims. This hadith ensured that the conquest of Istanbul was perceived not only as a political or economic duty, but also as a religious duty. Leadership in the Islamic world. The conquest of Istanbul would strengthen the prestige and principles of the Ottoman Empire in the Islamic world. Thus, it would not only be a regional victory, but also a symbol of dominance in the Islamic geography. This situation would provide the Ottoman Empire with an advantage in both domestic and foreign policy. Preparations before the siege construction. Of Rumeli Hisar control of the Bosphorus. Fatih Sultan Mehmet had the Rumeli Hisar built in the east of Istanbul with the help of Byzantium from Europe. This castle is a point created at the entrance of the Bosphorus and is recorded to break the supports coming from the Black Sea. Thus, the superiority efficiency of the Ottoman economy was aimed during the siege. Military strategy and defense. Rumeli Hisar was not only a defensive element, but also an important part of the attack strategy. The Ottoman army gained psychological superiority during the siege by limiting the external aid of Byzantium thanks to the control of the fortress. Cast of giant cannons innovation in the best technology. Before the siege, Fatih Sultan Mehmet had the largest cannons of the period made by the Hungarian engineer and received help from Urban. These cannons were known as Şahi cannons and were produced with the power to destroy the Byzantine walls. The technological dimension of the war. The Şahi cannons were effective not only in the destruction of the walls, but also in the morale and formation of the siege. The presence of these cannons increased the Byzantine defense and facilitated the advancement of the Ottoman soldiers. Preparation of the navy. Construction of ships. The role of the naval forces in the conquest of Istanbul is also of great importance. The Ottomans established superiority by building more than 400 ships in the Golden Horn and the Sea of Marmara. Sea siege. The navy formed an effective defense line against the help coming from the sea during the siege of Istanbul. The ships were transported by land and brought down to the Golden Horn, thus preventing a possible continuation by sea. The great army population and number of soldiers. Before the siege, the Ottomans had prepared a huge army of approximately 80,000. This army consisted of janissaries, akınçıs, and other auxiliary units. Military discipline and modernization. Fatih Sultan Mehmet aimed to modernize and discipline the army, thus aiming to overcome the Byzantine defenses. Against the Byzantine border force of 8,000, he gained an advantage with his huge army masses. The Siege of Istanbul process, beginning of the siege and strategic moves, beginning of the siege, April 6, 1453. The Ottoman army positioned itself in front of the walls of Istanbul on April 6, 1453. This increase, siege techniques, artillery fire, and perimeter sieges, such as the breaks, were intensely dispersed. Battering of the walls. The Ottoman cannons tried to strengthen the walls by pounding them for days. During this process, the Byzantine defense encountered great difficulties. Sea siege. The navy carried out an effective siege to prevent Istanbul from receiving support from the sea. The Ottoman ships blocked the sea structures. Byzantium, which was inadequate in terms of strength, faced a great disadvantage in the face of the siege. Clashes and attacks. During the siege, Ottoman military forces continuously attacked the walls. As a result of the attacks led by Zaganos, Pasha, serious damage occurred to the walls. The fate of Emperor Constantine XI. During the siege, Byzantine Emperor Constantine XI lost his life in the epidemic of war. His death completely destroyed the morale of the Byzantine defense. The Conquest of Istanbul and its results. The fall of Istanbul, May 29, 1453. As a result of the long siege and its violent consequences, Ottoman soldiers entered the city by breaking through the walls of Istanbul. This was a dramatic moment that symbolized the existence of the Byzantine Empire. The capture of the city. Thanks to the Ottoman restructuring and technological advantage, the city gates were captured and the Byzantine defense completely collapsed. Effects on the Ottoman Empire capital form. With the conquest of Istanbul, the capital of the Ottoman Empire was moved from Edirne to Istanbul. This change strengthened the centrality of the empire and symbolized the beginning of a new era, regional and global balance of power. The conquest of Istanbul strengthened the Ottoman Empire as a regional power, control of the straits, the electrification of trade routes and the acceleration of its expansion made the Ottoman Empire an important player on the world stage, cultural and religious, the beginning of a new age. The conquest of Istanbul is considered the end of the Middle Ages and the beginning of the New Age. This situation had great effects on both the Western and Eastern worlds, paving the way for new developments in the fields of art, science, and culture. Prestige in the Islamic world. The victory of Fatih Sultan Mehmet earned great respect and prestige in the Muslim world. The conquest of Istanbul is engraved in memories as one of the most important military achievements in Islamic history.